Hello, my name is Tom Stapleton here, and this is the new Red Sox Review. We've done a lot of shows in the past, but this is different today because the whole thing is different today. And what we have with us is we have Frank Frantino and we have Dick Reidy. They know about baseball. Many of the people that have done things in the past have also been well known too. But Frank and Dick are much better than him. You can smile if you want, Frank. Anyways, so what I'd like to do is I'll introduce Dick first. Dick is a lecturer in government, and also he's a consultant at Harvard University. Now, if you have something that needs to be read, Dick has read it, and he has not forgot it, believe me. He is an avid reader. And he just does, I don't know what he does with anything else, but he just reads, and he never forgets it. And then we have Frank Fiorentino over here to my right. He has a CPA firm, and how long has it been, 30 years, Frank?
42.
Okay, I was off a few years, but 42 years. He's a Rotarian, so wasn't Dick, and he's also a Red Sox season ticket holder, and he is the treasury member of the Bo Sox. So we call him Mr. Baseball because it's very hard to stump him. So what I'd like to do is to start off with you, Frank, and have you open up the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. As was just mentioned, that it is a different year in baseball, as we all know, in many respects. And so, Tom, I would like you to have your little intro regarding what happened on opening day 3 nights ago. We are speaking now on Monday, the Monday after opening day, which was last Friday. So, Tom, if you want to speak a little bit about your thoughts on opening day.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, opening day was really different this year. As we all know, there were nobody in the stands, and we also know that the first pitch that came out, well, actually, it was 3 first pitches. We had the governor, and we had the mayor, and then Mr. Lewis, who has recovered from the virus. And they threw the ball in and everything, and that was really nice. Now, the one thing that I'd like to mention is the ball that Dr. Fauci set in. I don't know if you saw that for the game before ours. It went to the right a little bit, so I mean, it was really not on target at all. So they've been having a little fun with that, and Dr. Fauci doesn't want anyone to catch anything. So we had a lot of fun with that, but it was a great time. So thank you, Frank. I got some other things, but I think we should get going on the meat of the subject now.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Dick, as we both know, there's been some major changes in baseball this year, even though they're playing a 60-game schedule as opposed to 161 games in the regular season. But there are some changes this year in terms of the rules and regulations as well as some of the format of the game. So I thought I would spend a couple of minutes in talking about the changes in the game. One of the biggest changes is the fact that there is now a designated hitter in the National League. The designated hitter came into baseball in the American League in 1973 and has been ever since, which means there is no pitcher that's batting during the game. And the National League never adopted this. So this year, Dick, they are having the designated hitter, not only for this short season, but it's being permanently installed in baseball for the future. Your thoughts?
Good idea. I think it's long overdue. Many times we've always made a comparison as to why the National League kept this rule versus the American League, and I thought a number of instances occurred during the season in the National League where the designated hitter would have been a good idea. And now they've adopted it. Let's see how it plays out. I think it's a good idea. It should proceed very well.
I think it will, and it will prolong the careers of many ball players who are not everyday players in the field, but will now be designated hitters for both leagues. Also this year, they're trying to speed up the game, and I don't know how successful that will be. But those of you who watch baseball, especially in the late innings, you'll see many relief pitchers coming in to face one batter, and then out he goes, and another pitcher comes in to face another batter, and out he goes, and it takes 2 to 3 minutes of wasted time on everybody's part So the Major League Baseball has decided that they want to speed the game up a little bit. So what they have adopted is that any relief pitcher that comes into a game in an inning must face 3 batters unless the inning is ended. So if the inning is ended with less than 3 batters, then the new pitcher that comes in can be a new pitcher in the next inning, and he has to face 3 batters. So, Dick, that is going to change the lefty versus righty batter and the right-handed pitcher versus the left-handed batter, and there will be less trips to the mound. So your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that those delaying tactics were used by managers, and it wasn't good for the game. People will get bored, and it never, lent itself to real good baseball. So I think that change is very good.
I think it is, and I think it will speed up the game somewhat, and it will take away some of the so-called specialists that they called in relief pitching as just pitch to a right-handed batter if you're left-handed, and vice versa. Also, some of us have watched many games that have gone 5 and 6 hours because they've gone 15, 16, 17 innings. I don't think we're going to see that in the future, at least as much as we have in the past, because once the 10th inning starts, which means the 10th inning would be the end of 9 after a tie game, then the batter who made the last out in the 9th inning will now start the 10th inning on second base with no outs. So the chances of that runner scoring are greater than if they started the inning the same as they would have started every other inning. You might see the sacrifice bunt, which would move the runner to third base, hopefully, if it was successful. And then you will see the infield pull in because they don't want that run to score, and that would promote more hitting. And I think that speeds up the game, and it would end less quickly than it would be otherwise. Now, both teams have the chance of this runner. So the visiting team would be the first team up, and the home team would have the same advantage in the bottom of the 10th inning. And I think that's going to speed up this game, and I don't think we're going to see, Dick, 15, 16, 17 inning games.
No, they'll become a function of the past. The clubs they'll devise some way, get that runner run, score the game. Game is over.
Right. And also rainouts. That's the other change this year. As you know, the legal game is 4.5 innings if the home team is ahead. It is not the legal game unless we play 5 innings if the home team is behind. But if the game gets rained out after the 3rd or 4th inning, then that game will continue the next day if they cannot continue it that day. So as you well know, sometimes these rainout games, they wait an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours before they restart the game. I don't think that's going to happen now because the next day they will resume that game at the stoppage, whether it was in the 3rd or 4th innings. If it goes beyond the legal limit, then that game will end, and that will be a legal game. So those are the major changes in baseball. And for this 60-game schedule, the normal roster was 25 players, but this year, for the 60 games, it's going to be 30.
Right.
And they have 20 players that so-called will be in the minor leagues, even though there's no minor league baseball this year. The Red Sox will have 20 players as well as every other team, and these 20 players for the Red Sox that are available to them will be at Pawtucket at this point in time. So those are the changes that I see in baseball this year in this short 60-game schedule. Now, Dick, would you like to start up a little bit on what we see with our Red Sox?
Well, I took a look at this year, and the Red Sox, I think they're very weak in the pitching. The first game, Eovaldi was terrific. Had great speed, and he held the Orioles with just a few hits, and they win the game. But the next 2 games, the pitching was very weak. There's no real good starter. Rodriguez is not here today. We traded away David Price. And so the club has not responded with good acquisitions. They're using, if you will, AAA players to cover their bases. That's not the way it's going to work. And what's going to happen, we're going to have a weak season unless these guys somehow catch fire. But I don't see it.
No, pitching is very weak, Dick. It is, and there's no question about it. We've lost some players this year. We know about Mookie Betts. We know that Price gone to the Dodgers along with Betts. Rick Porcello was a free agent. He went to the Mets. We lost a good utility player in Holt. He's gone to Milwaukee. And so the pitching, we thought would have two decent pitchers in Evaldi and Rodriguez, but because of the virus, he has a heart issue right now. And therefore, we're not sure whether he's going to come back at all this year. So the pitching has been very difficult. They have a guy named Josh Taylor. They have many pitchers that maybe you and I don't even recognize. Martin Perez is a pitcher that came from Minnesota. He pitched 2 days ago, and he got shelled. 5 runs in 2 innings. We had Ryan pitch yesterday, and he got shelled. 4 runs in 2 innings. So the pitching, the starting pitching is very difficult, Dick.
You're right.
Relief pitching, I think, is better. So I think the Red Sox have enough bats in their lineup, but I'm not sure what they can do when you're 4 and 5 runs behind after 2 or 3 innings. It's pretty hard to overcome and expect the relief pitching to come in there and shut down that other team for the next 6, 7 innings. I think that's very difficult to do. Tom, any comments?
Yes, I noticed on a lighter note that as everybody has noticed, that the stands are empty. Okay. And also that what's happening is if something good happens, somebody gets a home run or something like that, you hear all this cheering. Okay, well, it's piped in, this cheering. I don't know if that's the kind of job I'd like to have, because if you miss, if somebody strikes out and you cheer or whatever. But I've noticed that. And then the next thing they want to do is they want to have virtual people in the seats. I don't know if the Red Sox are doing that, but other teams may. And they're being so amazing about it that they're even recognizing people leaving the game if they're not doing well. So all this is virtual. Anyways, I get a kick out of that kind of stuff, but that's what I've been involved with for a while.
Well, that is true. There were no fans in the ballparks, and there will not be any fans. I happened to be watching the Dodgers in San Francisco last night for 4 or 5 innings, and they have all of these cardboard features in each of the seats of all of the famous people in Los Angeles, like Nomar Garcia-Pera is now an announcer for there.
true.
All the movie stars are there. Tommy Lasorda, the former manager of the Dodgers, was there. And you look at these pictures and you say, boy, they're pretty lifelike, but that's what they have in these seats in some of the ballparks. Before we go on with the Red Sox, and we were talking about Rodriguez, today it came out that Phillies have 4 players. I'm sorry, the Marlins have 4 players with the virus. They were discovered yesterday, and the Marlins were playing in Philadelphia. Therefore, the Marlins were scheduled to go home and play today in Miami, and they have been quarantined in Philadelphia, which means that they cannot leave. We don't know for how long. But tonight, the Yankees were supposedly to go to Philadelphia and play the Phillies. And so the Yankee game has been canceled. So we've already got cancellations already in baseball after 3 games.
We're going to see more of that this year.
I think we're going to see more of that this year, Tom. What do you think?
Well, how do you make up for that now? If you cancel a game, it's not like a rainout where you're going to play it somewhere down the road.
There's 60 games to be played in 66 dates. So it appears to me that it's going to be very difficult to make up many of these games if this continues on. And there is some talk that this season may just be canceled somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Because of what we're seeing already.
Yeah.
2 players from the Pittsburgh Pirates have been detected to have this. So here we are, we got about 8 players in the last 3 days with this virus. So I think that it's very possible that you might see some drastic moves in the next 2-3 weeks in baseball.
Yeah, I agree with you, Frank. I mean, this is so dangerous, this virus. You never know what's going to happen. Just to that example, you never expected that.
Yeah.
These guys are all in good shape and good health, and lo and behold, they get the coronavirus.
Wouldn't that affect postseason at all?
The postseason, I was just going to talk about that.
Yeah,
Thank you
okay.
very much, Tom.
Yeah.
The postseason this year is going to be 16 teams in the postseason.
Right.
And what this means is that, as you can see the schedule now, I'll use the example of the American League. The American League East, Red Sox, Toronto, Yankees, Baltimore, and the Rays, those are the teams in the American League East. They're going to play each other 10 times, which means that the Red Sox will play the other 4 teams 10 games each, which is 40 games. And then the next 20 games will be played against the National League East, which are the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves. They'll be home and home. So there's your 60 games. 32 teams in the major leagues. 16 of those teams will be into the playoffs. In the playoff pool, the money that these players will earn, depending on where they finish, the total pool is $50 million. So that the first place team in each of the divisions, and the National League is doing the same thing, the American League Central, the American League West, the National League West, the National League Central, all are going to do this. Those winning teams, the teams that finish first in each of these divisions, will be in, and the second place team most likely will be in, and then there's going to be a draw based on the records against each other for the other 4 teams to get into the playoffs. So you're going to have the playoffs with 16 of the 32 teams into the playoffs, which will not extend the season, because the season will end in the end of September, just as the normal baseball season would end, and the playoffs will end by the end of October, which is when the normal playoff season ends well in baseball. So baseball is not extending out beyond what they normally would have done had they had a full season.
Well, one of the problems they're going to face with is if they have other teams where coronavirus plays a role, that's certainly going to impact the squad in their roster.
That's where the Red Sox might have a chance if they stay healthy. If about 6 or 8 of the Yankees get sick and can't play, that's where they might have a chance here this year.
Yeah.
The Yankees, in my opinion, are the cream of the crop. And the Dodgers in the National League are the cream of the crop.
Yep.
But we never know in baseball what can happen. But the Yankees are loaded, batting-wise, hitting-wise, and pitching. And they won a game the other day, the same way they've won them every year, Dick and Tom. They win them in the 8th, the 9th, in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. They were losing to the Nationals 2-0. They come up in the 8th and in the 7th, tie the game, and they come in the 8th and win it, and they win the game 3-2 because they get strong relief pitching. The Red Sox relief pitching is not bad. It's not too bad. They got some pretty good relief pitchers in there. Bonds is okay. Coulter Brewer is a decent pitcher, but some of these names we never heard of. Matt Hall, Heath Enbring we heard of. Josh Osich is going to pitch tonight against the Mets. I never heard of his name.
No.
I knew he was in the minors, but I never heard his name. Jeffrey Springs. Where were these names coming from? That's what we want to know. Workman is in there. So we've heard of Bonds and Ryan and Workman and Brewer, but we haven't heard of these other players because the Red Sox don't have a starting pitching. They got all these relief pitchers and all these minor leaguers that they're trying to see what can happen. And I don't know how much luck the Red Sox have when seeing what these pitchers can do. So I say that the weakest part of this baseball team is the pitching.
No question about it.
Well, that's been their problem for a while now.
It's been a problem for a while, but Tom, when you have relief pitchers coming in the 4th inning, you can't win games that way.
No.
Tampa Bay did very well in the last 2 years, winning over 90 games by using 3, 4, and 5 pitches per game, but they planned it out that way, that these pitchers would pitch 3 innings and then a new pitcher would come in. Whether he was good or bad, they move him. That doesn't really work forever, though, in baseball. We know that.
But that was a clever move by their manager.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, how we get those players in, and you do what you got to do, and he did that. And he was, he was formerly with the Red Sox, but he picked up these ideas because he was a minor leaguer for years, and lo and behold, he applied some of his experience to those situations, and it worked for them.
What do we have, 15 pitches?
Yeah, they're probably going to have 15 pitches on this.
Yeah.
On this. Normally they carry 12.
Yeah.
Normally they carry 12, and they carry 3 to 4 utility players. But speaking of utility players, the Red Sox are carrying 3 catchers
Yeah.
Yeah.
this year.
That's right.
Yeah. One of them is Luke Roy, who's been in the major leagues for several years, is a pretty good catcher, is a good backup catcher. You know, we have Vasquez. And then you got Kilwaski, who is a minor leaguer and has been up and down for what we say a cup of coffee from the minor leagues to several major league teams, the Indians being the last. But we don't know what this kid can do. I think he's a good backup, but the majority of the catching, I think, will be done by Vasquez as far as the catching department is. And one of your favorite players, Dick, who was a catcher, is no longer here.
He's no longer here, right? Well, they gave him a good opportunity, and
Sandy Leone is
Sandy
no
Leone.
longer here.
great defensive catcher. Pitchers loved him, but he could not hit the fastball.
No, he could not hit the fastball.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he was gone last year, and they brought him back
Yeah.
during the season. But I don't think they're going to be bringing him back this year. But he did okay defensively. He was a pretty good
Yeah.
defensive catcher.
Yeah,
very good
very
defensive
good
catcher.
defensive catcher.
The Red Sox outfield, I think, is in pretty good condition with the addition of Verdugo. And you want to spend a minute on him, Tom? I'm sorry, Dick.
Yeah, Verdugo, we got him from the Dodgers, and he's a pretty good ball player. For the first few games we've looked at, the only thing I didn't like was kind of mouthy to the umpires, and you got to get rid of that attitude. But I'm not so impressed with Benintendi. He didn't look good at the end of last year, and even the beginning of this year. I think he struck out about 8 or 9 times thus far.
Devers and Benintendi were the
Right.
top leadoff and second batters in
Yeah.
the last 3 games, in the last 2 games. The first 2 games, and they went 0 for 19.
Yes.
Devers struck out about 6 times. Benintendi struck out about 6 times, but it's a small sample. We know Devers can hit well. We saw him last year. But, when you see a guy hit like Devers did last year, you got to see how much consistency there is there. And can he do this for 3 or 4 or 5 years? Benintendi has a lot of potential, but I don't think he's lived up to his potential. And they're hoping that he can find his way. Now, this is his 4th year with the Red Sox.
Yep, it is.
And I think he can he's a good defensive player. He's a hustler, but he hasn't been consistent with the bat. He can get in a hot streak.
The only thing in today's environment, where there's so much technology available to these players, I often wondered, and I like to see these guys start off with a bang. Benintendi was doing the same thing this year that happened last year. The third baseman, Devers, is a super powerful hitter. Why didn't they use something in the off season to go over their weaknesses, to get them ready for the season, knowing that this season was going to be a little bit different, That was just my thought. I think that there were techniques available, they didn't utilize them, and so we're seeing that right now.
Well, we don't have Cora here, as we know why. And he may come back next year. I mean, I think he did a good job with Devers, who was a young kid who was only 22 years old.
Yep.
I think he did a good job with Bogarts, who, in my opinion, finally came out of the woodwork last year as a very
No
strong
question about
player.
it.
But he had a lot of potential, and he was somewhat of a Benintendi type who did okay, but never shown how great he could be.
Yeah.
He did do that last year. But I say in baseball, consistency is the telltale of how good you are.
I agree with you.
You got to be consistent year in and year out, and I'm not sure that these guys can do that this way. I wanted to touch on one other point, and that is, I mentioned the designated hitter. And the designated hitter we have here in Martin is good, but can he stay with the Red Sox? Because now that the National League has the DH, he's got a $38 million window here for the next 2 years, but he has an option to opt out. So are the Red Sox going to go money-wise like they did by letting Betts go, letting Price go, letting Holt go, letting Porcello go, because they wanted to get under the salary cap, because the salary cap was $230 million, and the Red Sox were $250 million in payroll. And so they got rid of these guys, big monies, and they got under the salary cap, and I think that was their objection, is to get under the salary cap, and we're seeing that now, especially in the pitching. And so is Martinez going to stay here next year or not? I think that's a major issue. We got about 3 minutes left, I think, so anybody, Tom, comments?
Yeah, I got a few fun facts here to go over. Now, we all know, or maybe we don't, but the Fenway Park was built in 1912. Okay, what other disaster happened that year? Does anybody know that?
Is that the molasses year, 1912?
No, it was the year the Titanic sank.
Oh,
there we go.
The
So-
Titanic may be sinking again right now.
And then I also noticed that when they're running the bases, if somebody hits a home run, they don't touch hands anymore when they go by. They do the fist pump,
Yep.
which was interesting. And then the funny one that I have right now is Nathan Uvalde.
Yep.
Nathan Uvalde. Well, he went. Here's good pictures, and he went to the dugout to change his shirt. So what happened was he put this other shirt on, and when he went out to the mound, the shirt was number 17, and his shirt he has number 7. So he didn't realize. He just saw the 7, and he threw the shirt on. So the announcer said, "Who's number 17?" It was a whole different person on there. Fun fact, I don't know how many
That's
people
what
put them
happens.
up, but
That's what happens.
That was Dom DiMaggio's old number.
Right,
Yeah.
number 7 was DiMaggio's own number. So I think this sort of wraps up where we are here. By the way, I mentioned free agencies. Bradley's another free agent next year. He made 2 great defensive plays already this year.
Yeah, he has.
But he can't. He gets hot with the bat, but he can't get hot consistently. He'll bat for 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 games, and then he's back hitting 180, 190.
Yeah.
I think the Red Sox have enough power to win games, but they need to score a lot of runs to win it, because I think the pitching is going to be their big downfall this year, so they're going to need a lot of runs to win these games. So will the Red Sox make the playoffs, even with this expansion?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know. Time will tell. But they're going to have to win at least 30 games to get into the playoffs. And that's 30 out of the 60 at least. So will they do it? I don't know. I hope they do it, but it's going to be an interesting year. And I hope they can see some daylight here with some of their pitching.
Thank you very much, Frank and Dick. And there you have it, the new Red Sox Review. Stand by for more. We'll be back. Thank you.